Wait, so you have to you gotta buy a golf cart. You're screwed.
Yeah, I got to buy a golf cart.
I just was playing because I love the game. Like, and it's scary to me.
It's really easy for the game to become a job.
Blow sticks in his hands, whistle in his mouth.
Man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it.
I think it would only be out of respect to start the podcast and talking about the flood. That's obviously has hit Texas and the Hill Country, and obviously spreading a little bit more. It sounds like north, like Georgetown, is what I heard last night. So sad, and not to like. This podcast is special because we can talk about whatever we want, and so we're free. So that's what I'm going to do. When these things happen, I always it's hard to not be like the age-old question of like, why does God allow bad things to happen? You see these families that are struggling, and then they drop their little girls off at camp, hoping to go pick them up, and then they can't, and like it breaks my heart. And no words can like help these families. Only like faith and peace and time, and knowing that eventually they'll be reunited with their little girl again. When I was digging into the Word and talking to some of my mentors the last 24 hours about this stuff, we were talking about how, because I asked that question, and like as humans, we see things, basically as very finite. We know that how precious the time is, and that, there is death. And so when these things happen for us, it's like, what is going on? But obviously, like, I think what kind of gives me peace is knowing that, like, the Lord God doesn't operate that way. He operates off of plans that are based on eternity, and not off a short amount of time, because He is the Creator, and obviously, and He has the ultimate plan. And so, even though we can't see, because we see things like from a fleshly perspective, it does give me peace knowing that, like, whatever His plan is for those sweet little girls, it's the best thing for them. And we will never know that one day until we're obviously reunited again. But I think that's the only thing that you can do to really kind of give yourself peace, understanding. Otherwise, you're going to be questioning your faith and questioning all kinds of things. And yeah, it's just a sad situation overall. But continual prayers going out to those families, and everybody in Texas has been affected by it, because it's something that nobody obviously saw coming, and it's awful. So prayers for them.
Yeah, it's the hard part, the selfish part. My wife and I were talking about it this morning. She asked, "Hey, did you see this?" And I said, "I'll be honest, I've kind of been avoiding outlets where I know that there will be updates and things of that nature, because I can't really process it, thinking about like, what if that was Lane? What if we were in their shoes? And it's an extremely selfish perspective that you kind of have to like, and when you say it out loud, it's that humbling experience of like, wow, that's to make this about how it make you feel when you're not the one being affected. It's just, the reality of the situation is that we'll never fully understand. All we can do is provide prayer and support, and, keep them in our thoughts as much as possible, because like you said, it's a tragedy that, I don't really know how I would respond. And to be quite honest, I'm scared to death to ever have to find out. So,
I'll say this. I mean, just to kind of, we can move on. It's like, I do want to shout out people like Jordan Matthews, Jeremy Holt, guys like that I have now, like, we're like in a men's study group now, and I've been with them now for a few months, and I rely on those guys heavily to be able to provide this perspective from a biblical perspective to me, because I do feel like I'm like in the infancy right now of and like a newfound faith and truly diving into it. And so to have those guys to be able to kind of ask those questions and to get that heavenly wisdom from, and like who you were surrounded by can really help your perspective, whether it be good or bad. And so thankful for that, because in these situations, dude, it's like, it's tough. It's just like tough not to be negative and whatnot. So, but anyway, prayers to them and those families, and anything obviously we can do, we will do to help out, because we can't imagine. So anyway.
Moving on, little birdie told me that that your fall's not totally settled yet. If
Yeah,
there's any light
yeah,
that you want to shed on that without getting too deep.
yeah. I don't want to get too deep into it. But yeah, so I will be coaching this fall. It'll be a very minimal role. I'm so thankful. You always say you don't understand the value of what you have until that of what you have is no longer in your hands. And so when that coaching was stripped from me, and then now that God's blessed me with another opportunity, I'm like giddy about it because like I can't wait. Like as soon as I got the call to help this one school out, I'm very very grateful. Um, and again, it's just a small role, basically a quarterback coach, and I'm fired up for that. And so, but when I got the call, I was immediately like, hey, let me get into the playbook. Like, how can I help out right now? I almost had to stop myself so I didn't sound like a complete psychopath because it was like a Sunday and I didn't want to like, hey, let me come to your house and like figure all this stuff out right now. But no, I'm excited. Like I said, it'll be a small role, like basically volunteer-ish, part-time. Um, but I'm so excited and thankful for the opportunity because, like, to me, again, to go a fall without coaching football, it was like killing me, and so I'm so excited for this opportunity and just to cherish it and embrace it.
Yeah, and I know it's pretty fresh, but just like talk to me about the like your perspective change, your day to day perspective change. Because I know you're a grinder. Like whatever you need to do, you're gonna do. You're gonna do it to the best of your ability. But going from not having a football season to look forward to for even just a brief amount of time to now knowing that you have one to look forward to and prepare for, like how has it changed your day to day mentality and interactions and in every other aspect of your life?
Yeah, it's a good question because I do think I'll put it this way. I think when these things happen to you, it makes you go from I have to I get to. And so as a coach, you very easily, oh, man, I have to sit down today. I got to watch some film. I just have to because I got to make sure that we're good and that I can beat that DC. And I caught myself very organically over the last just few days when I got this call of like, dude, I get to like I have the opportunity today to log into a Huddle account, which I didn't have for the last. I mean, obviously, I have friends like you that I can log onto Huddle accounts, but like you get the point. Like I'm not
Yeah.
actually a member of that Huddle of that team, and so I get to log into a Huddle account that I'm actually a part of. Is a very different feeling because you just take those things for granted, and so it's a great question because it's like I said, my wife asked me, and she could see like I was way more giddy about just being able to coach. And it's like, man, yeah, there's like negatives. There's negatives in anything you do in life, but it shows me the value of like, man, we get to coach football for a living. Like, what a blessing, such opportunity, and such a big responsibility as well. Because I've also gotten to see the impact, and I should say, I will say, the negative impact of which kind of the repercussions, not only of what like me leaving Lipscomb, but like the effects of other kids that are leaving Lipscomb and how that affects not only the kids, but it affects the families. And so you as a coach, and we said this before, like you just can't ever underestimate the opportunity and the responsibility you have of affecting these kids and families' lives. And so now that I'm able to be back into that world, it's like, let's go. Like I will not take this for granted and I will be very grateful every day for the opportunity.
Yeah, I think that it's I spent the first tidbit of my career and I was very focused on football is what I do. It's not who I am. And what, to be completely honest, what I realize is that when you create that divide, it limits your ceiling, right?
Yeah.
It limits your potential of how high, how far you can go from an impact standpoint. And when you take a coach away from the sport and have him do something else, he's going to have personality traits that allow him to be successful. But being successful and having the biggest impact are not the same. And so for me, just as an outsider's perspective, obviously our relationship, for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of everything about the Kirkland family is going to be a little bit better this fall compared to what it was potentially going to be, just because I know TK is going to have a little bit more of a pep in his step. He's going to have a little bit more bounce to him, a little bit more enthusiasm because there is another first down to get. There is another touchdown to score. And I've, you know, I've seen you in a lot of different coaching environments, but they've always been coaching environments. And I couldn't imagine you going through a football season without one. So kudos to your new football family for I wouldn't even call taking it a chance, but finding a way, because I think a lot of people who have listened to us the past few weeks that may not have ever listened to us before should quickly figure out that any program that you're going to be associated with is going to be better for it, short term, long term, on the field and out the field. So I'm pumped for you. I'm pumped for the kids, for Lauren, because I know how different you're going to move, just knowing that, like I said, you got that Friday night game plan to continue to perfect and work on. And no matter what the role is, you're going to bring something to that team that they didn't have. So excited to watch TK in a new uniform on a new sideline and see how this fall goes.
Dude, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. That was really kind words. No, you're right. It would have been a miserable time in this household.
I mean, I didn't want to say it, but
it would have been brutal just sitting here. I would have not been here on a Friday night. I would have gone and watched a game, somehow, some way, which still would be brutal because it'd be like, dang it, they're going 3 boundary backer. Fix it. Like, find a way.
Just have 3 monitors with NFHS pulled up and texting live and just plug it. I mean, it would have selfishly, it could have been great for me because remotely you could have been just dominating our huddle game planning. But
dude,
I'll sacrifice that for the betterment of the whole family for sure.
No, like I'm still, it's funny about that. So after the podcast we had, a couple weeks ago, I got a few people to reach out. So thankful for that too. Like, one guy that I respect greatly out in Missouri reached out to me and kind of got me on in their huddle. And I'm like, even though I'm like within a team, like I'm still going to help them out because it's just, I'm fired up for it. And he was like, hey brother, I've been there before, whatever you need. Like, I got you. Matter of fact, go through our playbook, tweak it, tell me what you like, don't like. And those are the blessings I think that come out of this stuff, because it's like, okay, cool. I get to see like a whole different perspective of other coaches and how they do things. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll be helping this other school I'm with now. I'll be helping Mount Vernon. I'll be helping this Missouri team.
I know there's a team in London that's still waiting on you to message them back so you can help them, but it's fine.
I did message him I got to message back this next time. I responded the first time. I got to get back to him. Well, okay. Well, I'll just, he probably listens to this, obviously.
He 100% listens and he's mad at you.
I'm in a transition. I'll get it. I don't know what I'm doing from a day-to-day basis. So I'll get it figured out, but yeah.
Shout out Heath. The other part of that is, I think it's funny that this conversation 10, 11 years ago, when we first got into the high school ranks, I think that the number of people that I trusted to give that input was so small. And now, and it's not necessarily like, yeah, your network grows, those relationships grow, but now the longer we do this, the less I know. Mm-hmm. And the more valuable, even if it's something that ultimately might be wrong, just a different perspective allows me to enter a mind space that's like, okay, let me look at this from a different perspective, because they're looking at it from a different perspective. And even if it's not the direction we go, there's value to them. So how can we take value from that? And the older I think that we get, longer we do this, the profession teaches you that you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you can continue to add really strong links, then you're just going to strengthen the whole chain. And so I just think it's interesting, because I know personally in 2014 and 2015, there were like 3 people that I was going to have any type of schematic or conceptual conversation with, you being one of them. And now I'm much more willing and open to have, not to talk to people, but to have people talk to me and me just shut up and listen. Because like I said, the longer I've done this, the more I realize how little I know.
Dude, that's such a great point you just mentioned for everybody in every profession. Yeah, you're right. Because like, from like a philosophy perspective, I would say one's inability to seek new perspective comes from their what's the best way to say this? It would come from their internal lack of confidence, or I would say even self-esteem, because I was there before. I did not want to seek new perspective because I was fearful of what they would see that I don't know. And I think as you get older, you realize none of us know anything very, very well. You know what I mean? And like whatever that person knows is probably way better than what I know. And so if I can just hear to understand instead of to, as obviously as a kid and even still today, you would hear to respond. If you can just try to hear and learn to grow, that's the way to do it. And so, yeah, you're right, dude. Like the immature part of you and I, like at coaching school, is like, dang it, that guy knows so much. I can't talk to him. Whereas now it's like, oh my gosh, that guy knows so much. Let me go talk to him so I can get better.
And I think that you've talked about this before, just from your time working for Coach Dilfer and then Coach Lee. Like, don't invest so much time, energy, and effort to I got to come up with my way, right? I got to find my way. I got to find my voice. That's true, but your voice needs to be a culmination of every voice that's poured into you. The other part of that is don't try and be something that you're not.
Yes.
Right? Don't walk out there and try and be Nick Saban. Don't walk out there and try and be Art Browse. Don't walk out there and try and be, fill in head coach, because you're not them. And you'll be spotted as an imposter. You've got to be able to pull in any and every piece. If you get 1% from 100 people, then you're going to have value that adds up to 100%, but it's going to be authentically you. And I think that that's the hardest part. That's something that I struggled with from a personality standpoint. What kind of coach am I? Who did I try to be versus who I was? And the more conversations you have, the more you find your voice, because there's going to be somebody else that asks you the same question someone else did. And as you start to fine tune that answer, it's going to build your own confidence into whatever your perspective is on that situation, style, structure, culture, etc. So the more conversations you can have, not only are you going to learn information if you're listening to understand, but you're also going to confidently pour your foundation of who you are as a coach. And I think that if you can approach a conversation from that standpoint, that's where the value really comes in. And so anybody and everybody that's, especially in the past 3, 4, 5 years, that's asked me a question, scheme, culture, anything of that nature, I either tell them, I don't know, I'm not smart enough, you need to go ask TK, or I answer it with whatever we've done that I felt was successful, or what we did that we failed at and how we're going to change it. And not being afraid to just be wrong or be exposed and transparent, I think is the best way for growth to happen in those situations. Because I mean, I've been doing this, I guess, like 11, 12 years, and I got no clue what's going on. I just, what does Theo Vaughn say? Like, I don't have a clue. I don't know, but I'm going to be there every day, right? On time. So we're just, every day is just figuring it out. And like, how strong is your figure it outness? Because the more conversations you can have, the more inherently confident you're going to become in your process. And that's the ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. Let's pivot. So you got to buy a golf cart now.
Dude, I got to buy a golf cart.
Big deal.
So small story from the McLean household. 13-year-old daughter. Guess what she's obsessed with? TikTok. Shocker. I haven't been asked to make any TikToks with her yet, which I think is kind of a good thing. But, there's this trend going around where somebody asked a loved one, hey, how many likes to get this, right? And it's been going on and off for a while, but it's kind of built some momentum up again this summer. Lane sends me a screenshot of a golf cart. Nice golf cart. We got a family of 5, so you got to have a bigger golf cart. And my daughter, I have clearly raised her because she did not find one on Facebook Market. She did not find a pre-owned, beat up one with a ton of hours and miles on it. She creme de la creme, brand new off the showroom floor golf cart. And I said, for that golf cart, realistically, 50,000 likes and a professional golfer has to comment. And I'm thinking like, she's got, 800 junior high followers, and she has like 3 TikToks she's ever made that are still posted. So I'm thinking there's no shot. Well, in 18 hours, she had like 30,000 likes, and Slim Jim and Gain and then Live Golf had all commented. And right about the 24-hour mark, she hits 50,000 likes, but we're still waiting on that pro golfer. And then she FaceTimes me because Kai Trump, Donald Trump's granddaughter, who plays golf at the University of Miami, comments, "Hey, not a pro golfer. Hope you get that golf cart." And I'm like, what are we doing? What is going? Can you people leave her alone? What are we talking about? And then, like an hour before his first round at the John Deere Classic, freaking Minwoo Lee logs on to TikTok and just throws me under the bus. So now I got to buy a brand new Evolution golf cart, 6-seater.
Dude, so I remember, and we've already kind of talked about it, but like when you sent me it and I saw the likes, I was like, oh, cool. I didn't know that she was a famous influencer. Like, because like when you get that many likes, normally it's like, oh, okay, she's been doing this for a minute. She's got a healthy following. But when you told me, you're like, no, like she's just a normal human being. Like, and then this just blew up. Like, it's just I guess the kind of the opportunity that America has,
I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world. The first thing I did was I went into her room and I was like, "Did you steal my credit card and buy likes? Like, did you promote this video?" She was like,
genuinely.
What are you talking about? I said, "You know what I'm talking about." She goes, "No, I didn't do that at all. I promise." So anyway, she hit her, obviously she checked every box on what I told her she had to do. So I got to figure out a way to buy this golf cart. So I started GoFundMe. Anybody that's listening, it'll be, linked in the description to this episode. For the love of God, please help. Because I have now, full disclosure, we're going to get this taken care of because I'm a man of my word. We're going to figure out a way to make this happen because the last thing I want to do to my teenage daughter that locks herself in a room for 9 hours out of every day is not follow through on what I told her. So we're going to figure it out. But hey, if anybody listening wants to throw me a bone, any Evolution dealerships that maybe want to sponsor this or whatnot, just let me know. Cause, by hook or crook, we're going to figure this out and, we're going to get that girl her golf cart, but it's going to hurt. For sure.
May God be with you.
There is something else that, I need to touch on. These past couple weeks, state of Arkansas hasn't been too happy with me. Just from some of the recruiting conversations and things that have been going on. And that's all fine and dandy. And, most of the conversations have been constructive, supportive, but I know from some of the fan base, is a little annoyed because apparently I'm shedding light to something that everybody does, which they're right. But as I stated in the original conversation, this one hit close to home and I have an opportunity to say something. So I'm going to. If it had never hit this close to home, I may not have said anything. You don't like that? Start your own podcast. But Arkansas football fan influencer, I don't know exactly how it's the Hog Wild podcast. He was having a conversation about the clip and his whole thing was, are we really cheating just to go 6-6? And that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But here's the thing that I wanted to address because he had a friend, somebody else on there. And they said, I don't know why this guy's making a big deal about it. He's just butthurt. Everybody does this. And a bunch of people were commenting like, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, blah, 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 all those things. And here's what I want to tell you. First off, that's how I know you didn't listen to the whole clip or the whole story. Because the first thing I said was, it's not that it happened. It's the way they went about it, right? Transparency is key. And this is going to affect you in the long run because those doors to Texas high schools are going to get locked to you and you're not going to be allowed in. But here's the other part, because just a few minutes earlier in the show, when I heard that they were going to talk about it, obviously I had to go listen because I'm petty and nosy. And they were complaining about how people on the Arkansas roster were leaving, jumping in the portal to go get more money at other schools because they had a productive year. And they were upset about that. And the fan base didn't like that. So just to clarify, you don't like it when your current players leave the place that's developed them, that they had this standout season, to go get more money at another school. You don't like that. But you don't want anybody to complain about it when you essentially do the same thing to a high school kid that's already committed to your program, just for clarification purposes. It's okay if you do it, but nobody else, because they're already in college. So what? They should stay because you guys have invested so much. Just so we're clear, the people that are upset about this are the coaches that work with that kid every day. It's not the fan base of the high school he left. I promise you.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah.
make sure if you're going to be critical, that you're not hypocritical, because God forbid the pot call the kettle black and then get upset about it.
Yeah. Well, I also think this is worth addressing too. Like, yeah, there may not be a huge difference in age, but like, I mean, let's just talk about it. So when a grown man influences a 24-year-old, I mean, for the most part, 24-year-old, I mean, he's a man, but he probably still is a little bit of a kid. Like, it's not right. When a grown man is influencing an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old, like, it's drastically different. Like, it's way worse, is what I'm saying. And so it's like, you can't, like, that's also why people are upset. Like, that's also why it needs to be addressed, because it's like, yeah, like, these things are kind of happening too, when from like a in college perspective. But to your point, what makes it worse is how you went about it, because like, we're dealing with a high school kid, we're dealing with a child. Like, that's what makes it worse. So just put that out there.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I knew that people were going to be upset, but don't be upset about me calling out the same thing that you're calling out. It's just one's coming to, one's going from. Anyway, something interesting was said. I think it was just a couple days ago, actually. The talk of college football right now is Arch Manning. The kid that hasn't been a full-time starter yet, but is already projected to be the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL draft, which I'm an Arch Manning fan. Let's clarify that right now. I think that he obviously has the pedigree. He's done everything the right way. He's the son of the most athletic Manning brother, and has been poured into by 2 Hall of Fame uncles. So, the pedigree is there. The measurables are there. I do think it's crazy for him to be pegged the number 1 overall pick already.
Yeah.
But Cam Newton compared on his 4th and 1 podcast, he compared his path to Arch Manning. And the comparison he made was, when I got to Florida, I thought 100% I was a better football player than Tim Tebow, and that I should have been starting. But the harsh reality was that I needed Tim Tebow to mentor and guide me and teach me how to be a leader and how to be a winner and how to do those certain things that I may at the time not have really understood how to do. That my measurables were better, but my role on the team wasn't going to be as successful because I didn't know how to do those other things, those intangibles yet. And this is twofold. First off, I want to say the introspectiveness of Cam Newton at this point in his life is awesome. And I wish more people would listen to Cam Newton, not just for clickbait, but for the whole thought, because his ability to look from 20,000 feet on every phase and every chapter of his career has been something that I've been really impressed with. But the other part was, I just wanted to ask if you agree, disagree, thoughts, input on that comparison.
No, I mean, I obviously have not heard anything of this. So when you first said it, my initial response internally was like, what? Like, what is he talking about? But and then, like, that's very, very mature, to be able, and secure within yourself, to be able to look back, like you said, like the introspectiveness to be able to say, oh, like, this is exactly why I needed this. Like, good for him. Like, truly would not expect him to say that. So that's pretty cool. I respect that. I think that's like your most common thing that you see in sports, right? Like, I say all the time, like, what's frustrating about coaching is the majority of the time, if you're coaching this freak athlete, they lack the intrinsic motivation. And then when you're coaching this awful, awful athlete, like, he has the most intrinsic motivation in the world, but at the end of the day, it's like, brother, you're still going to be a Honda the rest of your life, and I hate that for you. But if you ever find the guy that is the Ferrari externally, but with the drive of the kid that's just the Honda, welcome to the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So, and you very rarely get those two mixed together. And when you do, I mean, everybody's a joy to coach, but those are the type of kids that, like, those are the type of kids that make you all of a sudden become a speaker at Texas high school coaches association convention. It's like, well, yeah, it's not my scheme, it's this kid. But yeah, so really, that's really cool that he actually said that and has enough maturity to look back and say I needed that, because most of those guys don't, and most of them aren't willing to even. Most of them don't realize that until after the fact, and it's too late. And if the ones that are lucky enough to realize, like, yeah, physically I got it, but my goodness, like Coach is right. If I can internally, as far as my spirit and my soul, get this drive and become a leader, I'll be a lot better. Most people just don't realize that in time until they're 60 on the front porch one day, realizing, like, dang, should have done this instead. So it's really cool when somebody can realize that early on.
And I think that there's a big picture part of this that I do want to make sure and mention before getting back to specifically Arch Manning. But the Manning family, right? The Manning quarterback cult, they picked Texas, and they've gone on record saying they picked Texas because it was a place where they knew Arch was going to be developed long term.
Yeah.
And the inability in modern day football for the mass population to see and approach their college selection that way is why you're going to see in the next, I would say, probably 3 to 5 years, a downtick in disparity in the NFL. You're going to really start to see this huge gap between the haves and the have-nots, because it used to be, in Jerry Jones's world, it used to be an 8-8 league. 9-7 gets you in the playoffs, gives you a chance to win a Super Bowl. 7-9 has you picking in the top 15. And the harsh reality was, in that world, as much as you hate to hear that sentiment from the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, in that world, it's because the demographic was so competitive. Everybody had been developed. The vast majority of guys were 2-3 year starters at the same school, at the same program, in the same scheme. They had learned they had learned how to learn, right? And what you're going to see now is that the football IQ is going to drop, right? The overall knowledge and depth of knowledge is going to drop, which is going to hurt teams that are in the lower or in the beginning half of the draft, right? Picks 1 through 12. And those are going to, everybody makes jokes about the Browns and, those type of franchises, but it's going to be perpetual because they're going to continue to overpay for low football IQ. Because it's going to be a splash guy that did this, that won the Bolitnikov because he transferred out of a G5 to a P4 and they went 7-5, but he had 1,800 yards and, this, that, and the other. It's just refreshing to see somebody who has the potential to be the number one pick. That I think it's a little premature to dub it now, but that's how they approached it. Was we want to send Arch somewhere. He's going to be developed long-term for the betterment of his future. And obviously, Texas being a major brand doesn't hurt, but that's where the blue chips, the 4 and 5 stars that approach it that way, that's where you're going to see the most growth and shine. And the guys that just jump and go to 2, 3, 4 schools, they're going to put up good numbers. They're going to sign a good signing bonus, but I think it makes it a lot harder when you jump from team to team. It makes it a lot harder to build the skills that give you the chance to be a long-term NFL guy. The second part of that is my hesitation on Arch Manning isn't because of potential measurables or anything of that nature, but he never won the job from a guy like Quinn Ewers, who was great at Texas, did a lot of great things, but ended up being a 6th or 7th round draft pick. So I think it's a bold statement to say that he's going to go from backing up a 7th round draft pick to the number 1 pick in 13 games, 14 games. I think if he does it 2 more years, absolutely. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I'll talk on both real quick, if that's okay. So I'm just trying to think right now. I would love to see a study of how many quarterbacks that had success, and if you were to define success as starting, obviously winning records, maybe for multiple years, or maybe not even that, but just played in the NFL for a long time, maybe like a Hoyer or something, like a Brian Hoyer or something like that, right? How many of those guys lasted in the league I would love to see a study of guys that were at a place, and maybe you could transfer once, but you did sit behind for a year. You watched the guy, you learned, and then you became a starter, even like a Pat Mahomes. Okay, yeah, he's a freak. Cam the same way, they're a freak, but like they didn't like transfer because they didn't start. You know what I'm saying? Like they actually sat behind somebody compared to the people that you know nowadays. G5, boom, I'm here. Maybe I transfer again, and then I'm into the league. I just feel like obviously the longevity of those guys is not going to be very high um, for many reasons. So I would love to see a study of that in the next like 5 years, just looking at that trickle down effect of like, okay, like these guys are we able to sit like a Manning, they last in the NFL a lot longer than the other guys, which I think should be pretty obvious. So
And
that,
I think you're going to get your best case study of your transfer poster boy in Dylan Gabriel this year.
mhm.
Three
Yeah,
colleges, two very. I think UCF and OU were pretty similar scheme and concept wise. So a
mhm.
big change from OU to Oregon. And so I've heard nothing but great things that he's a great teammate. He's a great leader.
Mhm.
But I think you're going to get a decent case study there to see
Yeah,
how that kind of career pans out. Because
yeah,
when you think about it, I think it's hard to name many guys that had prolific NFL quarterback careers that ever transferred. You got Russell Wilson, who did his one and done at Wisconsin.
mhm.
You got Troy Aikman, who went OU to UCLA.
Mhm.
But outside of that, I
Yeah,
mean, look at I don't know if you can, right? Jalen Hurts, I guess. But even then, Jalen Hurts, I think, yes, falls into the transfer category, but he also did it the right way because he
right.
lost the job and still stayed a teammate and was able to step back in and win a big game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, he
Like,
did end up transferring, and yes, it obviously paid off, and he's very successful. But I still think that he approached that from a completely different perspective than like, oh, I lost the job, I'm out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think if you did the study, which there'd be so many errors in it because it's so, um, it'd be subjective. You know what I mean? Like from how you put in there categorically, because like to me, principally, Jalen's okay. Like he's okay. Like principally, the way he went about it, I'm good. And I can't even think right now off the top of my head. This is where I'm so bad at. I'm not the guy that can like rattle off people. Like I gotta see it, but I can't. I'm trying to think of an example right off the bat where it's like, no, okay, he's the opposite. Like the way that he did it was wrong, and because of that, how does he translate to the NFL? Oh, it didn't work. That's my point. Um, I can't think of one right now, but like
I mean, I'll
trying to
be
think.
curious to see how Jackson Dart does, leaving UCL or USC to go to Ole Miss.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
what right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever the reasons were, was it whether it was money or scheme or whatever. If Lane Kiffin just had that relationship, but
yeah,
there's another one because
yeah,
I think if I understand it correctly, I think he left and was the guy, right?
yeah, yeah.
And he was an in and out guy at USC. So it's like,
Hmm.
and there's guys that start for 3 years and go to the NFL and they do great. That
Yeah,
exists. That happens. I understand that. But I think that the developmental part is the thing that, like, when you see, John Gruden on there yelling at these guys, and it's because the game when you have guys that are only on campus for 9 months, right? They transfer in January and then they declare in December, right?
yeah,
So I guess,
mhm,
11 months.
yeah,
When you have that, your program, your football playbook has to do this. It has to shrink. Has to.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't do you. There's not as much development and building, on when I look back at my college career, it was bullets flying 1,000 miles an hour that first spring. But
yeah.
guess what? The bullets didn't change. So
Right.
the next spring, we practiced a little faster. We were a little bit better at them. And then the next spring, we were practicing even faster and we were even better at them, right? Because of that development within the same system, within the same practice structure, within the same verbiage, you learn how to learn. Do you learn by watching film? Do you learn by watching reps? Do you learn by what kind of notes do you need to take? How do you learn? When all you do is jump from playbook to playbook and it's like, here's the highlights, boom, focus on that. Like it limits your ability to learn the intricacies. And that's the part that's going to hurt the development and the football knowledge of these future draft picks.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Nico would be the good example, I guess. He'd be the best example to provide, where it's like, okay, let's see how he pans out. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see all that. And then to kind of, I guess, finish the whole Arch Manning discussion. Yeah, I mean, interesting. I think it's an interesting perspective you had with him because, like, I do feel like that would have been a harder decision. I feel like there were times in the year where it was almost obvious, like, we got to go Arch. But I also feel like when you're at a school that is the stature and presence and knowingly like Texas, and then when you have Quinn Ewers out of all of those, like at the end of the day, yeah, it's just a quarterback decision. I just feel like politically it'd be a lot harder to be like, Quinn, we're benching you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it'd be a lot harder to do it there. And again, this is just outside perspective, looking in, than it would be to do it anywhere, like even like at a USC where it's just like, I feel like it'd be just a little bit easier to kind of say, you know what, we're switching. We're going to go, you guys are both kind of here. We're always going to go young, which is obviously what you do most of the time. I feel like that was harder for them to do.
But they made the college football playoffs, right? And they made it off the back of a fourth down play that Quinn Ewers made.
Right.
That
No doubt.
I don't know. I don't know if Arch Manning has that in his bag. He absolutely may. We just haven't seen it. And
right.
I think that what was interesting is that Sark never wavered on Quinn Ewers as a starting quarterback of this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the confidence in that statement came from, shocker, the development that had happened as a multi-year starter in that structure.
Yeah. Yeah. But I say all that to say, at the end of the day, and I think Arch will say it too, because I'm pretty sure he's already said it, like the hype that he's gotten is very, very undeserving, because I think he actually quoted himself saying like I haven't done anything. I think he just said that just recently, like I've done nothing, and he hasn't. So like, to me, when these guys are like, hey, future #1 draft pick, it's like, okay, how? Like, show me, not like, don't talk about his spirit, don't talk about his obviously pedigree. Show me on film why you think he's #1. And like, you obviously can't. Like right now, you can't. Not consistently, you can't. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But like, if you're looking at it from like a piece of clay moldability perspective, well, yeah, like you're building a quarterback, and like you can put all the families together, and genetically, it's like, well, that's the guy. That's who you would build. So like, no doubt he could be the guy, but it's like to already peg it, like you said, it's pretty ignorant.
Last thing I'll say, Quinn Ewers, Texas boy, South Lake, the original dirty recruitment out of the state of Texas, with his reclass convincing from the staff at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something we need to dig into.
You know what? I'm not going to dive into this, but I got some stuff with Ohio State that we could dig into later on.
Tune in next week.